I was standing on the edge of a precipice, looking down into the deepest hole I had ever seen. At the bottom was a group of people in hard hats, or at least so I was told. They were much too far out to make out with the naked eye. In the ground near them were hundreds of pounds of high explosive. This was enough, I was informed, to demolish a city block. In front of me was a metal panel with 2 buttons, and next to me was a man with a walkie-talkie. We were listening in to the control room where someone was counting down. I had been told to press the 2 buttons simultaneously when the countdown reached 0. The charge from the detonator would take a split second to reach the bottom of the pit, at which point a football pitch-sized square of the Nevada dirt would evaporate before our eyes. "You'll feel the shockwave first," said the man with the walkie-talkie. "Then you'll see the earth going up. Then you will hear the explosion. In that order. It's kind of weird." I hadn't travelled out into the high desert to set off a bomb. I had come because of a spreadsheet. Some months earlier, scanning through Britain's trade statistics, I had noticed something odd. Flows of gold were distorting the figures and hence our picture of the nation's economy. Gold, it turned out, had briefly overtaken cars and pharmaceuticals as the UK's biggest export. Given Britain does not have a gold mining industry, this was perplexing. How could a country with no significant gold reserves become one of its biggest producers? As far as I could make out, part of the answer was that much of the world's physical gold passes through London on its way somewhere else. In order to solve the riddle, I travelled out to where the precious metal is actually extracted to chart the journey of gold from the ground to the refinery and then, in the form of bars of bullion, around the world. But as we began filming, it dawned on me that there was an even more intriguing story to tell, one that says rather a lot about humankind's relationship with the world. It had taken some months for my producer to persuade the miner in question, Barrick Gold Corporation, to open its doors, and a few days to get there from London. The Cortez mine is not the kind of place you happen upon accidentally. In our case, it took 2 flights and a 4-hour drive west across the salt flats of Utah, followed by another 2-hour car journey with Barrick's minders. There was a highway, mostly empty except for the occasional heavy truck, then a long desert road, then a dirt track winding into a long, dry, uninhabited valley. Cowboy country. The mine itself is located on the slopes of a hill called Mount Tenabo, a sacred site for the tribespeople of the Western Shoshone. The process of mining is comparatively simple and echoes the techniques used by gold miners back in the 19th century, albeit at a gargantuan scale. The rocks are blasted out of the earth, crushed, and then ground into a fine dust, and eventually mixed with a cyanide solution which helps separate out the gold itself. This is the reality of 21st century resource exploitation, reducing vast quantities of rock into granules and chemically processing what remains. It is both awe-inspiring and disturbing. One risk is that the cyanide and mercury used in the method could escape into the surrounding ecosystem. After all, while miners like Barrick insist they follow all the rules laid down by the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, campaigners warn that pollution often finds its way out of the mine. Indeed, a few years earlier, the EPA had fined Barrick and another nearby miner $618,000 for failing to report the release of toxic chemicals including cyanide, lead, and mercury. But the main thing I was struck by as I observed each stage in this process was just how far we will go these days to secure a tiny shred of shiny metal.